Okay, everyone ready? Radio silent. I was speaking into my stopwatch.
I'm recording it.
All right, everyone ready? Radio silence, please. Cameras ready. Well, for starters, it's a bit slow. I mean, if I ran, it would be faster. Oh, I've got him on the launch.
You and me!
Ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da. How cool was that? Had some graphics made for this episode. There we go. Welcome to it. Hello. Welcome to episode 7 of the Cars.co.za show. Good to have you back with me. Now, if this is the first time you're watching the Cars.co.za show, this is the studio. It's in my house because, you know, it's locked down. We're not allowed to have a live studio audience, but we'll get there. We'll get there one day. Really cool to have you back with me. Here's what's coming up in this episode. In the first film, we go behind the scenes and see how they made that epic Red Bull taxi versus Coulthard advert. We join Ashley Oldfield as he reviews the brand new Hyundai i30N. We take a look at one of the most special Porsches in South Africa and the extremely passionate owner who owns it. I get to grips with Jaguar's all-electric iPace. And lastly in the show, the legendary rock stars from Prime Circle join us for a bit of go-karting. But up first, the wonderful ladies and gents at Red Bull gave us a call and said, listen, David Coulthard's coming out here. He's bringing a Formula 1 car. We're going to be shooting an advert and we're going to be running it through the streets of Cape Town, and everyone is invited. Would you like to come and hang out behind the scenes with us? And of course, we said yes.
It's been 26 years since a Formula 1 race was held in South Africa. There is an entire generation of South Africans who have never heard or seen a Formula 1 car in real life. This weekend, that was about to change.
Hello and welcome to somewhere in downtown Cape Town. You might have noticed that behind me there's a Formula 1 car. Red Bull is here. David Coulthard is here. Tomorrow, Sunday the 2nd of June, they will be shutting down the city for one of the biggest Formula 1 events ever to happen on the African continent. We'll be there, but right now we've been given exclusive behind the scenes access to show you, our Cars.co.za audience, what it takes to shoot a commercial with an F1 car.
Moving a Formula 1 car around the world is an enormous effort. A team of about 20 travel with the car. Red Bull's show car is a V8 from the 2011 Formula 1 season, and it takes about 8 people just to start the thing. Then of course, to film it, you need some crew and a bakkie with a crane on the top.
So this is the second or third scene of the day, and it's a scene that will be quite familiar to a lot of South Africans, and that's stopping at a traffic light and buying a magazine. So right now, David Coulthard is actually in the car. He's the only person able to drive that car. He does all the stunt driving, and he's busy buying a copy of The Big Issue in Cape Town.
Then it was time for the first big action shot of the day. Nothing can prepare you for how loud a V8 Formula 1 car really is. Red Bull's aim was to make a global advert with a particularly South African flavour. The concept was David Coulthard racing a Toyota Hyundai through the streets of Cape Town, and pulling off a script like this is no joke. And as is usually the case in filmmaking, everything was taking longer than you'd hoped for. A lot of pressure on the film crew. Winter hours in Cape Town are really, really short. The sunset is coming up very quickly. They've got quite a bit still to do. But eventually, it was go time. Being this close to a Formula One car and listening to it drive through the streets of Cape Town was a surreal experience. And then the realities of shutting down an entire city occasionally brought everyone back down to earth. Right, you see that? That is a Cape Town My City bus, and the city will shut down the whole city for you, right? City officials will shut everything down, but buses still have right of way. So David Coulthard sitting in a Red Bull Formula One car, everything shut down. Nah, let the bus through, let the bus through. Once all the buses had cleared the set, it was finally time to get the money shot. The Red Bull F1 car cruising under the iconic Cape Town Civic Centre. That's pretty much that. That's got to be one of the final shots of the day. The sun has set. I'm sure the director's going to call wrap shortly. That is the end of the commercial shoot. Tomorrow is the big day where Red Bull shuts down the city of Cape Town and DC runs that car in front of 75,000 South Africans. It's going to be a very, very good day, and we'll be there covering the whole thing. With most of the shots in the bag and the sun completely gone, the Red Bull crew was left to put David's car to bed, ready for the next day. It's Sunday morning, the grandstands have been built, the city has been shut down. David Coulthard will be doing his first run at 1:30 this afternoon. This place is going to be packed, but it's very early, there's absolutely no one here yet, and I'm gonna go get a coffee. With the crowd starting to stream in, Red Bull made sure there was plenty of entertainment, and local drifters were invited to show off their cars and their impressive skills. And before the Formula One runs began, the Red Bull engineers had a surprise for us.
David Coulthard!
Of Cape Town. It's happening, it's real, there's nothing that sounds like a Formula One car. I've got goosebumps, and I'm pretty sure everyone here does too.
This is why, ladies and gents, for so many years we've got it back in South Africa.
Yeah!
Of the power.
Formula One cars represent the very pinnacle of modern engineering. They are, and always have been, the fastest cars in the world around a track. This weekend was about entertainment, but I think it was more than that. I think seeing this icon of the sport, David Coulthard, in action, feeling the sound of the F1 car in your chest, I think it's inspiring. South Africa hasn't had a Formula One driver for 39 years now, but maybe after this weekend, that will change.
And hopefully what we can do is maybe stimulate the next future world champion is out there. A young boy or a young girl will be watching today, the first time seeing a Formula One car and getting excited about maybe one day they could be driving them.
Oh, that was such a great memory for me and the Cars.co.za crew. It was really special just getting that close to a Formula One car, and we got to hang out with David Coulthard a little bit. He's an absolute legend. He's Scottish, I'm Scottish. We have so much in common, you know, we really got on. But there's actually an interview with him on our YouTube channel if you want to go and check that out. Right, coming up next, if you haven't noticed, we have an in-house race ace. His name is Ashley Oldfield. He's absolutely brilliant at what he does. And this is the guy whose opinion you want on this next car. So Hyundai have decided that they need a performance division. It's called the N division. And their first car is this, the i30N. So Ashley got hold of one, and well, here's what he thinks of it.
Hello and welcome to the review of a hatchback, but not just any hatchback. This is the new Hyundai i30N, the very first N Hyundai have officially made. Now, firstly, I have to apologize for the hat, but it's been about 4 months without a haircut and nobody really wants to see that. It's not fit for consumption. So I'll be wearing a hat and doing a review. So Hyundai N, what are they? Well, they're basically like a BMW M or Mercedes AMG, Audi RS, that sort of thing, but with a Hyundai badge on the front. But now if you're Hyundai and you want to make BMW M cars, how do you do it? Well, the first thing you do is you take BMW engineers and you coax them into Hyundai. They didn't just take one engineer, they took 4 of the best engineers from BMW, put them into the Hyundai N project, and this is the first car they've managed to deliver. The i30N. It's a hatchback with 202 kilowatts, 353 Newton meters of torque, all going to the front wheels, and a 0 to 100 time of 6.1 seconds. We do need to talk about the exterior of the i30N. What do you get for all of the extra monies that you're paying? Well, 19-inch rims, performance blue, which looks like it's been bombed at a color festival, blacked out mirrors, a nice panoramic roof, and at the front you get a sort of shark nosy effect with this, so the honeycomb grille, another N badge here, and then they sort of decided to throw some electrical tape on the bottom just to give it like a bloody lip effect. I would have skipped that, but overall, the effect is quite GTI, quite subtle, not over the top like a Honda Civic. Right, so we've spun the car around so you can see the back here. Basically, the only thing that works here is the rear wing. That's quite nicely blacked out like the roof. Then at the bottom here, you get a fake diffuser, some fake air flow vents, I don't know what you call it, like a diffuser, a fake fuser, whatever. But right here, some nice pipes here, especially for my Joburg crew out there. Lekker. Now before you just go ahead and drive an i30N, you got to set it up. Thankfully it comes with a little checkered flag button here and a drive mode button, so you can go through your modes and select them and get a combination. But they do have a custom mode which allows you to change everything from the engine mode to rev matching style to how the limited slip differential plays and your type of exhaust setup. So let's have a fiddle with this. Let's see, what are we going to go with? Let's go checkered flag mode. So that brings traction control mode into sport, rev matching sport plus mode. Oh, I can change the chassis here too. So chassis, suspension, sport plus, steering, sport plus. That's heavy steering. Okay. There's tons of grip from the front end here. You can really power it out. The diff works nicely too. There's no real understeer on the way out of the corners yet. I imagine the tighter it gets, the more it's going to have to fight the understeer. It's nice to have a manual gearbox back in here as well. Hot hatchbacks need manual gearboxes. Of all the cars, hot hatchbacks make the best use of manual gearboxes. It's a proper visceral feeling thing to shift your own gears. And in those high performance cars where you've got flappy pedals and stuff, that's great because you're just trying to hold on for dear life. But in a hot hatchback, you want to drive it. You want to be the guy who tells it what to do. You're not hanging on for dear life. You're hustling. That's what hot hatchbacks are about. I gotta say, the interior is probably the major letdown inside here. There's nothing really that screams Hyundai N or exciting or lives up to how this car performs. You get these blue buttons here, you get some blue stitching. These seats are Alcantara and leather, but there's nothing really that shouts, I'm a cool, fun hatchback. It's a bit bland, a bit boring, which is counter to this car's external attitude and the way it drives. Now, another hot hatchback trait, torque steering under acceleration. Let's give it a go. Let's give it the boot. Full go. Steering still straight. Second gear. Steering still straight. Very little torque steer under power. That's good. Okay. Into this gear down, left-hander. Get it in, let's use a lot of throttle. Ah, this thing is good. That diff, I can feel it just pulling the car in as you put the power down. This is a good car. Oh, bangs on the overrun. Nice. So on the way down the gearbox, you get a nice little rev match, so you don't need to heel and toe. You can really have fun in this car. It's made me excited again. I'm having fun driving this car. Gotta say, I would like a little bit more feedback from the steering wheel. The steering is a little lifeless. It's got lots of weight to it. It's meaty to turn. It's nice to hold, but you kind of turn the front end and wait for the car to move to kind of figure out what it's doing rather than feeling it through the road. Something Hyundai hasn't quite got right with any of its cars yet. If I was going to place it somewhere, I'd probably say it's not as dynamic or chuckable as a Megane RS. Won't do a lap time like a Civic Type R, but it's definitely faster and more fun than a Golf GTI. And if I take it out of N mode, it's probably just as comfortable. There is one downside to this Hyundai i30N though, and that's the price. Overseas it costs a lot less. It's more or less Golf GTI money, but here, because it's coming in as a limited edition, it costs 690,000 Rand. That's a lot of money. So is it worth 100,000 Rand more than a Golf GTI? 120,000 Rand more than a Megane RS? Short answer is no. It's not worth 100,000 Rand more, but it is a very fun, very good hot hatchback. It ticks all the boxes except the price. In Europe, this costs the same as a Golf GTI. And at the same money, you'd pick this. Every time.
Coming up next is another video from our SentiMETAL video series. SentiMETAL is our classic vintage exotic supercar car culture brand and online store. And in this video, we meet what is definitely one of the most passionate petrol heads and car collectors that I've ever come across in my 15 years in this career. You'll find her on Instagram as Porsche Girl CT, where she posts about her incredible car collection. She's actually probably one of the most important Porsche collectors in South Africa, really keeping this brand's heritage alive. And how she came across and came to own this incredibly special Porsche 356 Super 90 is a really, really great story indeed. Here we go. I think one of the most beautiful Porsches ever made. Makes all the modern ones look a bit nah. That's just me though, you know, that's just my opinion.
Once you experience the drive quality, the balance, the way that the car is set up, for me it was purely about, now I need to find one and I need to get one. .911s are one thing, but once you drive a 356, you will never look back. So the quest began for a 356. And this particular baby belonged to a gentleman called Tinus Kukumur, who came from Brakpan. And Tinus was very particular. Tinus kept every single document. He was ultimately the first owner in the sense that his best friend bought the car in from Arnhem in Switzerland. And the car arrived in South Africa in 1962. He basically, when his best friend died, the car literally moved from the friend's garage to his garage. And he heard about this Porsche mad crazy person in Cape Town. And when he was going to offload the car, he said he wanted the car to go to a collector. He wanted the car to go to somebody who would keep all the bits and pieces together. And that's how I got to hear about this car. The 356 driving experience is very direct. The way that the chassis is set up, the way that the four wheels are placed at the corner of the chassis means that it is direct. You turn that wheel and you point, and that's where she goes. There's no messing, there's no mixing, there's no mistakes here. You actually go where she wants to go. And as you drive the car and as you get to feel the car, what you discover is that she actually closes around you. You become completely encapsulated in this unbelievable driving experience. There is so much feedback. There is just so much realness. She hugs the road. And you know, I'm a bit obsessed with watching these old videos of this car racing in Nürburgring and racing at Le Mans. And these little things can corner like it's no one's business. That's why they did so well. And that's why they have this special place in Porsche collectors' hearts. The drive experience is truly phenomenal. Ferdinand Porsche always said, all Porsches are female, and don't let anyone tell you anything other. Porsche are female, and his famous quote was, they're female because of the curves. And I think that for me is the most beautiful statement ever. My name is Michelle Hambley, and I drive a Porsche 356 Super 90 from 1962. She needs to rev quite high, so you need to keep the revs at a particular level. Also, when you drive this car for a long time and she's nice and hot, when you stop, you're going to find that you can't just start her again. You've got to remember the Weber carburetors and the Solexes, there's a particular method that you need to do a hot start. So I had to learn how to do a hot start. There's a ritual to starting her. And when people say that, you often think, oh, really and truly, what are you talking about? But I have come to learn, and literally in the last 3 years that I've been driving her regularly, that there is a ritual. You have to pump the fuel pump 3 times. Then we put an electric fuel pump in. You let that run for at least, you count to 15. You release the button. pump again for 3 times, and honestly and truly, she starts every single time, like clockwork. So yeah, you have to have patience. The 356 was an interesting car. It was an interesting development by Porsche. It was very much driven by the American market. A gentleman by the name of Max Hoffman had a meeting with Ferdinand Porsche, and said they needed to build a car for the American market. So the Speedster, the 356, the Roadster was essentially a car that they exported a lot of. It has an incredibly rich racing provenance because the Americans embraced this car. They realized that it was actually a lot better than some of the American-made racing cars. The Super 90 obviously has a bit of a stronger engine, has a better performance, and it was one of the first cars that wonderful James Dean raced. James Dean raced a 356, and he went from the 356 to obviously the 550 Spider, which ultimately led to his demise. Driving these cars and realizing how fast and nimble they are, one also has to realize that the 356 has become a legend in more ways than one. It's become a very special car because it's sought after. They only built so many of them, and there's a cult following in the world on 356s. For me, it is truly about the fact that these cars will go forever. I always say that they have a soul.
Now, before we go to our next film, I need you to all do me a favor, please. So this is one of the really cool shirts from our SentiMETAL store. It's Cars.co.za/shop. That's where you can buy these. #LiveToDrive. That's an E30 Beamer. You can also get one with a Porsche. They're really, really nice. I love these things. But I hate round neck shirts. Oh, I probably touched my microphone there. Look, it's like you're being strangled. So please do me a favor. Tweet and Instagram and Facebook everyone at SentiMETAL, all my colleagues who run the brand, and please just tell them to make these in V-necks. Just say, if they made V-necks, you'd buy one. Just something like that, you know, something simple. I'd love that. I'd wear these more often. Just tired of the crew neck, I think it's called. Anyway, okay, let me stop talking nonsense. Coming up next is an electric car review. Now, electric cars are maybe a little bit controversial in South Africa because, you know, we have a bit of an issue with the supply of electricity, which makes electric cars seem a little bit silly. But I really don't think that's the case. And so we worked with Jaguar. They gave us an iPace to live with for a month. We installed an electric vehicle charger in our Cars.co.za head office up in Johannesburg. And one of our founders, Alistair, got to live with the car for a while. But then I flew up to review it. Hello and welcome to our Joburg office where I've just had a delicious coffee from my man Sandile. But I want to show you something. I need 2 hands for this. There we go. This is our very own electric vehicle charger. We had it installed towards the end of last year, and we did that because Jaguar wanted to give us an iPace for a month to see what it's like to live with an electric car. So let me take you through a couple of the basics here. If you'd like to install one of those in your office, that's the 7.4 kilowatt hour unit. They cost about 23,000 Rand. It was about 7,000 Rand for the install. That price can vary. And that means that we are now EV ready. So we had to do that to get the iPace, but it was one of the coolest things we've ever done. And one of our CEOs, Alistair, has been living with the iPace for the month. But I've stolen it from him for a few days because I'm up here for the 2020 Cars Awards. So here we go. Here is a day or two in the life of me and an electric car.
The Jaguar I-Pace is a car of extremes. It is extremely fast, it is extremely luxurious, extremely good looking, and extremely expensive. But it's also extremely good to drive.
Let's go. Let me take you through the startup procedure. Foot on the brake, press the start button, and the car is on after this cool, like futuristic sound. And we're off. Reverse button, all your drive buttons are over here. And quite interestingly, the car emits a noise from the outside, like a beeping noise, because the car is so quiet that it's actually a danger to pedestrians. And that, I think, has actually just been made law. So you know, like when you're at the back of a Pick and Pay and there's trucks reversing everywhere and they're all beeping, it's like that, but classier. Way more expensive. If you haven't driven an electric vehicle before, something that takes quite a lot of getting used to is the effect of regeneration. So when you come off the accelerator, it has two effects, and that is one, it decelerates the car, and two, it charges the battery, which is super cool. So for instance, if you're rolling downhill, you're not using the accelerator, you're actually charging the battery. And in the iPace, that regeneration effect is really strong. And what it means in practice is that you actually drive this car on one pedal. You hardly ever use the brakes. And I've read that on some Teslas, people go 6, 7, 8 years without changing their front brake pads because you just hardly ever use them. And interestingly, the car, when you come right off the accelerator, turns the brake lights on because the car is slowing down so much that someone would just rear end you, which is not good. And what that results in is a very relaxing driving experience. So not only is it very quiet in here, it's not stressful in any way to drive this car. So I have cleverly engineered this video so that I can do things like go for coffee and tell you about the car at the same time. That's my thought pattern. So I've just got back from a quick drive and I'd like to take you through the plug-in process of an electric vehicle. You unlock the car and then open this flap over there. You then move over to your charging point. You grab hold of the plug. In it goes. Now, a good idea is to lock the car. You don't have to, but what that does is if you're in a public place, it actually locks that thing in place so it can't be removed and tampered with. And then you get on with your day, I suppose. We do have a front door, you know, for people who want to walk into the office, but it's all the way over there. So, do electric cars really save you money when it comes to reducing your fuel cost? The answer quite categorically is yes, but it does depend on, say, what vehicle you're coming from. If you're coming from a 5-litre V8 supercharged Range Rover, then wow, you're going to save a lot of money. It's actually about 1/6 of the fuel cost. So how you work it out is you multiply the price of a unit of electricity at your house or at work, which is roughly R2 depending on where you live in the country, multiplied by the size of the battery, which in the iPace case is about 91 kilowatt hours. So that's about $180, and you do about 400 Ks on that, 350 to 400 Ks. Now I'm not going to do the rest of the maths, but I think to fill up a Range Rover these days costs a lot more than 180 Rand, and if you drive it like a bell end, then you're probably also going to do about 350, 400 Ks on a tank. So that gives you an idea of how much cheaper it is to run an electric car. But here's what's really exciting about electric cars. The way you can charge your car gets cheaper and cleaner all the time. So if you have a petrol or a diesel powered car, you can't really make your own fuel, can you? I mean, you can make diesel out of old cooking oil, but I mean, that's quite a mission. You can't make your own petrol. You just can't. Whereas, if you invest in your home, you take your home off the grid, and then you charge your electric car at home, you're charging it off the sun. You can't do that with a petrol car. That's not an option, ever. It's never going to be. And that's one of the reasons why I think investing in an electric car is a good idea. Just imagine never having petrol costs ever again. It's brilliant. Let me give you a tour of the actual iPace, and to do so I'm going to get out. So Jag says this car is an SUV, but I mean, I don't know, it's not, it's very low. you know. It does have air suspension, this model, so you can raise it to look a bit more like an SUV. You do get that high driving position that I think you want from an SUV, but I will give them credit. This car looks like nothing else on the road. It does get a lot of attention, but it does have some flaws. One of them is in the boot area. So that's my hoodie, and that's the spare wheel, which, as you can see, is taking up quite a lot of room in here. I mean, you know, that's not very practical. And obviously, because they've given you a spare wheel, that means the car doesn't have run flats. And I don't know why they wouldn't have just run it on run flats. I mean, I'm sure there's a technical reason. Maybe the car's too heavy, because electric vehicles are extremely heavy. So maybe it's got something to do with that. And obviously you can take this out, you know, it's just a carabiner there, and you get it out and you stick it in your garage, but then you got no spare wheel. So that's a pretty big issue with this car. So you've bought an SUV, but you have no boot space. I love these door handles. They pop out obviously when you open and lock the car. Those are super cool. Obviously they just stole that from Tesla, but it's fine. We won't talk about that. Moving to the front of the car, obviously that's where you plug it in. And then the front boot, or the fruit as I like to call it, is over here, because obviously there's no motor, there's no petrol engine. So you just get this little space for the contingency charger, and maybe, I don't know, if you've bought a few sandwiches from Woolies, you could warm them up in here. It gets a little bit hot. So this is the emergency charger. You really shouldn't use this often. In fact, you shouldn't use it at all. It's for real emergencies. It only charges, it takes 48 hours to charge the battery. So I mean, it's completely useless, and it's actually quite dangerous. It draws so much current. It draws more than a boiling kettle. So imagine leaving a kettle boiling for 48 hours. That's how dangerous this is. And when we plugged our BMW i3, because it has the same charger, into our office in Cape Town, it actually melted one of our extension cords. So yeah, don't burn your house down. Don't use that charger. There we go. That is a little tour of the iPace for you. I really do like the look of this thing. I really do. It's nice. Nice car. Right, this is probably the perfect time to talk about load shedding and electric vehicles, because I'm driving through an area that is currently being load shedded. And in this climate, it's very easy to be skeptical and cynical about electric vehicles. And I totally understand that. I totally understand that when there's no energy security, you're thinking to yourself, why on earth should I buy an electric car? Okay, so here we go. It's not that bad. If you have a home charger, you can charge your iPace, which has one of the biggest batteries on the market, twice the size of a BMW i3 battery. You can charge your battery in about 6 to 8 hours. Now, if you get home at say 6 in the evening and you leave at say 8 the next morning, that's 14 hours at home. So if load shedding is for 4 hours, even overnight, still gives you 10 hours to charge your car. And maybe one day in this country we'll have off-peak tariffs and you'll want to charge the car at night anyway. Of course, if there's charging stations at work, that also makes your life a bit easier. You've got more options. Charging stations at shopping centers while you do your groceries. There are charging stations at Jaguar dealerships. You can use the ones at BMW dealerships. If Nissan ever installs some in their dealerships, like they said they were going to do 4 years ago, then you can use those as well. So there are a number of ways to dodge this load shedding issue, which we're definitely going to be dealing with as a country for the foreseeable future. And I don't think it's that much of an issue. I really don't. If you spend a bit more money, put a charger in your house, you'll be fine. You'll be totally fine. That raises another bit of an issue for me, which annoys me quite a lot, is that you spend about 2 million rand on this car, and Jaguar still makes you pay separately for the charging wall box for your house and the installation costs. I'm like, really? Just throw it in. Surely you would just throw that in. It's like selling a cell phone without a charger. It doesn't make any sense. Of course, the biggest problem with the adoption of electric cars right now in South Africa, in my opinion, is not load shedding or Eskom. It's the price of these damn things. Wow, they are expensive. You can choose between this, which goes for about 1.9 million rand starting price, or you can choose the i3, the BMW, which goes for about 700,000 rand starting price. And when you consider that the average
car finance deal through Westbank is 270,000 Rand. That is way, way, way out of most people's budgets in this country. Way, way out. So until electric cars get down below 300,000 Rand, I don't think we're going to see widespread adoption. And that's such a pity. But remember the first cell phones? They cost an absolute fortune and they were so cuck. The battery life was like 1.5 hours if you were lucky. Now cell phones are amazing. They shoot 4K and they have GPS involved and installed, and batteries last like 24 hours unless it's an iPhone. Ha! iPhone joke, threw that in there. But that's the thing. That's how technology works. These things are going to get cheaper. They are going to get better. It's just, and now that more manufacturers are involved in the industry, the competition is greater, so that technology advances further because everyone's trying to outdo each other. Well, everyone's trying to beat Tesla, let's be honest. And that's great. That's great for you and me. That's great for people who want an electric car. It's awesome. Right, coming up next, it's a video from our Come Drive With Me series where we invite some of South Africa's favorite faces and personalities to come and hang out with us. And we go for a drive and then we go and do something cool and a bit entertaining and a bit fun. It's inspired by carpool karaoke, and obviously in this episode we had some musicians, the legendary rock stars from South African band Prime Circle. But we don't sing in the car. No one wants to hear me sing. Maybe you want to hear Prime Circle sing, but you don't want to hear me sing, that's for sure. And so I thought, let me take them to do something where maybe I'd have a little bit of an advantage. And so we went go-karting. This was really fun. Hello and welcome to episode 2 of Come Drive With Me. This week, we're amped to welcome one of South Africa's greatest rock bands, Prime Circle. These guys are legends. They've been touring the world and cranking out hit after hit for over 16 years. We invited them to Cape Town, and 3 of the 5 band members joined us for something a bit more car-related. Gentlemen,
hello.
Welcome to Cape Town. Cape Town.
Thank you.
How are you all doing?
Good. Nice to be back.
Yeah. This isn't home for you though. Eh?
No, but it's it's everyone's second home.
Yeah.
Everyone always wants to be here.
Your music has woven itself into the fabric of South Africa. I mean, I was going over your Wikipedia page and reading some of your song titles, and every time I read a song title, I could actually hear the song in my head.
There we go.
Like it's somewhere in the back of my mind, you know?
Sometimes that's not a good thing. Like I can read the Britney Spears catalog and hear those songs.
And it seems nothing can stop them. The band have just launched their 7th studio album, entitled If You Don't, You Never Will. And this is the first single, The Gift.
The response has been amazing. I mean, from Europe to here at home, it's been fantastic. And for us to play this album, I think it's been 3 years in the making, in a way. Like it took us 5 weeks to record, but it's been, us after Let the Night In, it's been 3 years, and we've been looking forward to playing some new stuff. So new energy. We are so stoked.
You just celebrated the band's 16th birthday, right?
Yeah.
Or fairly recently. Something I was wondering about, and in the early days, obviously, it wasn't like, hey, we're a band, here's a record deal. Obviously, there was a bit of tough time. So how did you guys support yourself in the beginning?
We all had jobs, man. I remember the day we were sitting in the jam room and we all decided, cool, and in the next week we're going to go full time. We're going to take that risk. And eventually we got to a place where we were playing and decided, look, let's quit our jobs. It was a big risk, and I think it was very tough times. There was a lot of sacrifice, but it was fun and worth it, and it was actually a lot of fun, in the end. You're on the road, you're with people, and you're sharing a piece of bread kind of thing, sharing a pie at 2 a.m, cutting it up,
back then.
Yeah, we were way skinnier back then.
I think we should go back to sharing my stuff. You mentioned you being well received overseas, and I was searching for you guys on Twitter, and I saw there is a the Prime Circle Germany fan account.
Yeah, it's fan club, yeah.
On Twitter. That's pretty awesome.
It's nice, yeah. Like it started like these are the people that started showing up first. You know, the first 3 or 4 people, and they've stuck with us, and it's grown now to like some nights it's 1,000 people, some festivals there's a few thousand, and it's amazing to see.
Yeah, I've just done an extremely Cape Townian thing and missed an off-ramp.
Nice.
Yeah, so I'm just going to quickly make a U-turn.
Actually, one of our first bus drivers in Germany, we called him Uncle U-turn.
Yeah.
Because every like half an hour he'd do a U-turn.
Yeah, he would.
He thought it was pretty funny, like, Uncle U-turn. Das is funny.
That's good.
This is a beautiful car.
So this car, before options, costs 2.4 million.
What model is this, babe?
It's called the GLS 63 AMG.
So it's a 63, so this
Yeah.
is the big boy.
Yeah, so this has got that twin
Bi-turbo
turbo V8. Yeah,
V8.
correct. If you guys get like 18, 19, 20-year-old fans at your shows, they were 2-3 years old when you
amazing,
guys
yeah.
started.
Yeah.
So that must be awesome. You just know you're attracting new fans all the time, basically.
It's crazy, yeah. Like you're playing to people that you were 2 or not even born.
Yeah.
And then you're also playing to fans that weren't born now, and some of them.
Your fans' kids.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. It's a beautiful thing, and I think every album you bring out, you want that relevance. You want it to still be across the board, and you still be able to make new fans.
Yeah.
You don't.
Mick Jagger said in one of his
Yeah.
interviews he did 3 generations, so the granny, the mother, and the daughter.
But I think he meant it in a different way when he said, "I did 3 generations."
A road trip with these guys would be absolutely hilarious. But today we had an appointment. The venue was Kenilworth Karting, where we were set to take each other on in the time-honored sport of amateur racing drivers around the world, go-karting. Introducing today's contenders: Ross the Demon Learmonth, lead singer; Dale the Hammer Schnettler, drummer; Neil Fingers of Fury Breitenbach on keyboard; and representing Cars.co.za, Ciro de Siena, who has no middle name. In the first race of 3, I got an early lead and took the checkered flag. But this was the band's first time at the track, and they would only get faster as the day went on.
Deal. How's that for a workout?
It feels like I've done like a 2-hour drum session.
Race 2 was much more of a dogfight. Ross took an early lead, with Neil and I fighting for position. I moved in for the overtake and he completely closed the door on me.
Close the door on me. He just shut me out.
Dale would eventually take the win.
Well, this is it. This is the final. This is the decider. A winner will be crowned. Here it is, the final. Red lights. Waiting for the yellows. Yellow light and green, and we're go!
We were tightly packed and Dale took an early lead, but Neil and Dale took each other out, which made my life much easier. In a lapse of concentration, I spun out on turn 2 and Neil snuck past me. And now it was going to be a proper scrap to the finish line. Neil and I were trading paint and giving each other a proper run for our money. On the final lap, on the final turn, I went for a dramatic overtake on the inside line and we both spun out, with Neil pushing me into the tires just meters from the finish line. My race was over. Neil took the checkered flag, Dale passed me for second place, with Ross having retired earlier in the race. Ladies and gentlemen, your winner, Neil Fingers of Fury Breitenbach.
Guys, let me take this opportunity.
Cool.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you, brother.
Thank
That
you.
was so much fun.
Oh, that was amazing.
About all the German beer I had.
All right, there we go. That's it. That is everything for episode 7 of the Cars.co.za show. Thank you so much for joining me. A couple of things before I go. I'm recording this as South Africa has gone down to level 3 in the COVID-19 response. Be safe out there. We're living through an absolutely extraordinary time. Do the little things to keep each other safe. Wear your masks, sanitize your hands as often as humanly possible. Over at Cars.co.za, we're doing everything we can to help our dealers and help our customers buy new cars, used cars, and find the best advice that they can when making their next car purchasing decision. We'll be back same time, same place next week. And remember that you can watch the Cars.co.za show on Ignition on DSTV channel 189. Alrighty, I'm out of here. I'm all done. That was good. I enjoyed that very much. Roll credits, everyone. Let's finish the graphics. Finishing graphics. Swoosh.